Hi, I'm Shoshana Bean, and I am here thrilled to be sitting with two extraordinary talents, extraordinarily huge hearts, the stars of Kimberly Akimbo, sweet Justin Cooley, and my sister, Bonnie Milligan.
Yay.
We're going to start with the baby, okay?
Yeah.
Oh,
So, welcome to Broadway.
thank you so much. Thank you.
You are, to find the adequate words to express your singularity, how special you are, how unique and authentic you are, what a beautiful experience it is to sit in a theater and experience you.
Thank you so much.
I don't have enough words, so thank you.
you.
Thank you. So my question is, as it is your Broadway debut, tell me what about the experience has been what you expected or hoped or dreamed or prepared for, and what has most surprised you? What has been different, or what has been, and I want complete honesty. Like I want to know what it's like behind the curtain. Is it as glamorous and thrilling as you thought?
I mean, I think it's so different starting kind of with what surprised me, because I wasn't expecting to be here like at this age, at this chapter in my life. I was expecting to be like in my 40s, like wizened and like, so weathered from the world. But I just
remember that.
Yeah.
He'll say
not
stuff
that
like
you're
that.
weathered from the world. If you're
I didn't know it was showing, but
But I was expecting to have some more experience and tools.
Sure,
I
got
believe.
it. That's
Coming into this. So it kind of was a whirlwind, honestly, coming into it so fresh and young and with people who were so experienced. I knew I had so much to learn, but it was really intimidating coming into it. And I guess, I wasn't expecting to have so many like life things to learn from the people I was working with. You know what I mean? And I think now that I'm here, that goes for like anyone at any age, at any time. When you're working on a show and you're so close with people and you're unraveling stuff about yourself, you get new people to work things out with and to learn from, personally and as a creative. So I think that surprised me, to be able to really broaden my own scope as a person along with the character. And it is glamorous. I mean, I have a whole room to myself. I remember when we showed up at the Off-Broadway theater, I was so excited to have my own desk and mirror with my name on it. I felt like a superstar. And now I have a whole room.
Yeah.
with a door.
With a door.
Yeah.
But it's hard work, I think. That's kind of a running theme. I'm always like, why does no one talk about this?
It's so
I
much
think
harder.
we actors should talk about this more.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to do it on, emotionally, physically, so many things. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to take a lot of responsibility, because you have people counting on you and audiences, and you have to lean on each other. And I think that's something that I learned.
So beautifully said. You had said that you were surprised by how much you had to learn or needed to lean on the people around you in your own life and your own evolution as you, Justin.
Right.
Did you find that this character showed up at a time where you're sort of mirroring each other's journeys? Did you feel like you've learned more about yourself through him and vice versa?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's really special that I got to play him at this time, because, I am 19 and I'm kind of right on that cusp of leaving my teenage years into young adulthood and coming into the professional world immediately. I felt a lot of pressure to like completely leave that behind, jump away from that and be like, I'm an adult, I have all these expectations, I have all these things I need to do. But I think playing him every night, getting to actually live as a 16-year-old and be my most messy, childish, unkempt, but also like dream-filled self has been really helpful for me to like cope with making this life adjustment and see kind of the beauty in that and the beauty in what I was, and that I can take that forward going as I'm growing up. I never have to let that go, and I think that's something beautiful.
And there's something that, like, when we started at the Atlantic, he had just graduated high school, had just turned 18, came to the city, had never done a show more than your high school show, right? You're like,
No.
I've never done a show more than 3 times.
Did you
And all of a
audition,
sudden-
or they saw you like what, Jimmy Awards? Like
Jimmy
okay.
Awards, yes, they found me from the Jimmy Awards. I sent in a self-tape, and really quickly, I was the last one cast. Within 2 weeks, like, I just kind of flipped everything around. I thought I was on my way to college. I sent in a tape. They were like, let's get on Zoom a few days later. Let's fly you out a few days later. Let's cast you that day.
Wow.
And, like, you know, pack up and get out here.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
The incredible thing about this show, and Allie pointed this out, was just like there's not a lot of this in musical theater. We don't
Yeah.
allow it's and Stephen was also pointing out there's like the bad guys and the good guys, and we
Right.
don't allow a lot of times. You guys are so lucky with this incredible writing to have these very complicated characters who,
Yeah.
as they so clearly stated, are not just one thing. And I throw you into that category with them
Yeah.
of like, we love you and we also can't believe like the shit you're pulling, but also
Right.
we're like
Rooting
rooting for
for
you
it,
and
but, like,
grateful that
yeah.
Kim has you. We're feeling
Yeah.
all kinds of things about you. So when you first read it or saw it on the page, what scared you about her? What were you like hyped about her? How, in what ways, this is a big question. In
Yeah.
what ways is she like Bonnie? In what ways is she like wildly different?
I think what I am always excited about in any kind of character that I'm given is to make it the most human, real, fully realized person that I can. And life is that. Life is complicated. Life's not just good or bad or whatever. And that's the brilliance of David Lindsay Bear and the characters that he has created, because I look at Deb, and when I read the play first, and I read love, even though she's a mess and she does really horrible things, I saw a genuine love of Kim. And I said to him early in process, I was like, I see love. Is this okay? Like, am I on the right track? And he's like, yeah. I think she's also like, she can't choose anybody over herself at the end of the day. But she, absolutely. And I was like, okay, great. I can work with that. And it comes to, no spoilers. Deb is at a really intense place in her life. She's got to get out of town. Some bad stuff went down, which we'll find out about later in Act 2. But stakes are high, which is also really fun to play, because if you're desperate and you need something because there could be some consequences coming that she needs to get away from, that drives what she's got to do, which is the bad stuff. I mean, it is bad. I don't know why I did that. I was like, bad. It's bad.
Questionable behavior.
Yeah, it's not the best. But also, sorry as I spit, but also as you look at Deb as a character, like, I don't think I have education. I don't have money. I don't have a lot of resources. I don't have the idea of, I didn't grow up with money. I grew up in a trailer in the Midwest. And I think there is something to the mentality of not having much. You don't just believe, oh, I can make it happen. I'll get a scholarship. That's not in you. And it's not, you watch your parents struggle. You watch other things. You watch checks bounce. You don't think, oh, let me go to an expensive school and we'll figure it out. That's not in your DNA. And so, and the system is, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, so to propagate that.
Yes.
And so that is where
Speak on
Deborah's at. That's where she's at, is this place of, the only way I can get out of this is some crime. And I think that's true to probably some people.
Survival.
That's survival. And she's backed in a corner and she's going to do what she's got to do, while having this actual, genuine, deep love of her niece, who I think is the last person who enjoys her, because everybody else is kind of done with her. And this is my last connection to humanity, and this person who I do really love. When I meet him and I say, I will F you up big time if you mess with her, I think I've done that to people who have given her looks. I say, after all those times I took you to Chuck E. Cheese, I think I took this girl who looked like an adult who had a mind of a 5-year-old to Chuck E. Cheese, and probably some people made faces or said things, and I beat them up. And I've done it before, and I'll do it again. And I think I'm dead serious when I say that to him. I'm like, don't mess with her, because I do love her. And then it's like, oh, I'm joking. But Kim knows I would. So it's like, that is the reality that you walk and that you play with. And it's like, I will do this. But it's like, no, okay, that's not the circumstance. Okay. And she's also a con artist. So she reads people. She weaves spells. She's got to be charming. I have to be nuts enough. Like the kids in the library, the first scene with him are like, oh God, and they leave. And then the next song, they want to sing backup for me. So that is a fine line to walk of like, how do you be serious enough to kind of be scary, but then also be intriguing enough to like want to join as your backup singer.
I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
And so, and I think it's diving into a genuine love and a genuine need. And sometimes those clash and sometimes they work together. But it's like, at the end of the day, you got to find truth, and it can't just be some caricature. And finding the right balance of those things. And that was a lot of the rehearsal process, was finding how, because sometimes Bonnie doesn't want to be disliked. And so I'm like, oh, God, that feels hard. And it's like, but sometimes you got, like, go to the truth of the need. And so if I'm just really, if I go to there, I can still be this, and that's how it's hard. But you can find
it's a broad performance for musical theater in the sense of like it gives us what we want and what you're capable of, and it's so grounded at the same time in that truth, which is what makes it funny, which is what makes it heartbreaking. Like, it's such a beautiful performance, my friend. I was very proud sitting there, beaming. I'm gonna go off script a little bit. I was inspired to ask you a question as you were talking, and if it's too personal, you can say no, and we'll cut it, and we won't do it because I didn't clear this question with the team. But I know the timing of how this all shook down for you. I know what was going on in your life and how the show just kept kind of showing up for you. And I think, to your point of like things that actors don't discuss, I think one of the weirdest, hardest, most beautiful things about what we do is when life is happening and we still have to show up to the job. Sometimes it's an incredible gift of escape and like focus, and sometimes it is the craziest mask to put on to know what you're dealing with in your real life, and then know you have to go out there and entertain people. So I'm wondering for you, losing your father and going through such a massive grieving period and having this, was the show part of your grieving process? Do you feel him, like, you know, just speak on it if you're comfortable?
Yeah. You know, I got this audition request like 3 days after my dad died. And so, and that was why I was in a place I was like, no, I cannot do a self-tape. And they gave me a couple weeks, and then I still couldn't do it because my brain wasn't memorizing. And then they gave me a couple more. Anyway, I finally got it. And I got the job, and we were in the room, and I think we all dealt with grief during the pandemic because everything shut down. And so there was also a great loss of, you go through I went through an identity crisis being in my 30s at my mom's house and having just lost one parent, clinging to another. And it's like, is my industry going to come back? And if it's not, what am I going to do? I'm not trained for anything else. You know, like, am I going to temp in Ohio? Am I going to temp in like New York? Like, and so to be able to be in a room again was just joy. And I asked a million questions because I think I was just so excited to have a writer right there and to have a director there, to have the composer there, and I can collaborate. Finally, that's so much of what we do is collaboration. And to be removed from that, you know, I did a couple of readings during the pandemic over Zoom. And it's not the same because you take a 5 and everybody turns the camera off and you don't go get coffee and meet someone, which is, I have so many friends from this industry from just doing readings with them. And so it was so isolating. And I was just in a home with no friends and making dinner for my family. And so then we are in a room. And then I just remember the day I realized the story we were telling. It was like 3 weeks in. We were doing a hospital scene. And I had a breakdown. And I had to go and excuse myself. And thank God for this team who, first of all, gave me all those extensions. But Jessica Stone, our director, came over to me and was like, do you need a minute? Very quietly and respectfully, and I said, and I had to go to the bathroom and like cry for like 5 minutes, and then come back in, and nobody made me feel weird about it. Everybody just like kept moving because grief is an ever-flowing, ever-present process, and there's lots of times I absolutely feel my dad with me, like he'll always be with me. So like, you know, you just go, okay, Dad, like it's rough today, just like be with me, and then you go forward. But
what a gift, though, speaking on the subject matter of the show and what goes on in the, I mean, thinking of the song that Allie sings and just like such a gift, because I think sometimes we try to keep it at bay, and I think I'm glad that you
and like
have
you said, I think it's important to talk about these things and to advocate for yourself, and to say, I'm still an artist, I'm still a human, I can still work, but I am in a place where I might need a little gentle handling. And our team was so beautiful. And I even recently took Jessica Stone aside and I was crying and I said, I just want to thank you. Like, because the further away I am from those Atlantic days of rehearsal, the more realization I have of like how fragile I was as a human. And even like certain scenes, I was like, but why can't I say goodbye to Kim? And it was weird, right? Yeah. Like I was like, is this me upset for my character, or is this Bonnie upset for someone at the end of their life in front of her and she wants to cling to him?
Yeah.
And it was hard, and they were so gentle with me and really worked with me as an actor through that. So that was really helpful and great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jessica Stone, beautiful direction.
Yeah.
Beautiful direction. Okay, on that note, sorry. There are some fan questions I want to get to. Your favorite fan encounter that stands out?
Oh my goodness. I feel like it's sort of a general thing, but we have these high school groups come.
Yeah.
Like on the bus from...
Yes, like from all around the country. They're on field trips, and I'm always so surprised by how much they are rooting for Kim and Seth in our relationships, in our intimacy.
Shocking.
And I think when the theater troops come, I mean, they identify with him, and I think that's beautiful.
It is.
We're all such weirdos, and I think he just shows that if you embrace that, like, you shine the greatest. And seeing other kids,
you do that, honey. It's not put on. It's so authentic and
so
that
genuine.
Permission granted for everyone else to let their unique, weird freak.
I had to learn how to do that, like, coming from these kids that I'm seeing, like, they're a few years younger than me, just as I was, and I remember when I was in their place, I probably would have had more trouble doing that than I do now. And I love being able to, like, show that. And, like, you know, you will be able to do it one day, for sure. Someday soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the best fans. They're so great. And the ones that we meet at the stage door, I had someone very emotional after a show once that she was like, I just saw my family.
Oof.
I've never seen my family on a stage. But it was also, she was like, what really moved her was that it was complicated and respectful, which I think is what we've talked about, like deepening all these, like, it's not good and bad. It's just like people that are hurting and surviving.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I think we kind of already touched on it, on the biggest impact the show has had on your life. I think that's been clear, but if there's anything you want to add that was specifically a fan question.
It's just a gift, and these people are a gift. Like, this cast is so special, and the team, the cast, the show itself. And we got to work on a new David Lindsay Bear and Janine Tesori show.
I know.
Like, there was a day Janine was working on the idea of, like, what the transition music would be, and we just did transitions. And it was her figuring out whose story she wanted to follow. And it was just, like, a masterclass. That you get to be in the room for that. Yeah. Like, what?
Every day.
And I turned to the young ones, and I said, do you know what's happening right now? Do you realize how cool this is? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, take notes.
Yes. I think personally, a lesson kind of goes along with what I'm saying before, but at the end, you know, no spoilers, but, you know, Kim and Seth, they get to do something beautiful, and they get to have a beautiful adventure, and I think for Seth especially, something that I relate to with him, like, we see him figure out that he wants to be someone new, regarded from who he's always been, the good kid. He says, you know, I think I don't always have to do that, but we don't figure out who he's going to be next. And yet, that doesn't stop him from going on his adventure. And I think something I've learned is just like, you don't have to have everything figured out to chase joy and to go on the greatest adventures. Figure it out along the way. Maybe don't, you know, but you're allowed to chase that.
And be present in the ride. Like, stop worrying. That's so beautiful about our shows. Like, stop worrying about where, like you said, where we're going or where it ends up. And, like, future, we always think about. It's like, just enjoy the now.
Exactly.
And that's been, like, such a gift.
Yeah, I think that's made a huge personal impact to be able to live in every day.
So I love how you've articulated the way that your character has taught you something. What has Deb taught you?
Don't wash checks is something. No. I think something I share with Deb is that, like, that desire to fight, that grit, that feels like, an analogy for my career. That happened a little bit later, and that it's taken a lot of like clawing, but like it didn't happen right. And that's what's beautiful about this business. I mean, you can have somebody coming right out of high school, and I would have been terrible right out of high school. I needed years to learn, to train. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I would have been. He's so good. It's so dumb.
It is so dumb.
But like being grateful for that, like all of those challenges I've had, which has been a lot, I think has helped deepen everything of like where I am. So being like grateful for that, like those struggles, I think Deb, I don't know that she's grateful for them, but like it has given her these tools of like, she gets the job done. She gets things done. You know what I mean? And I think to be more grateful for those struggles and less like mine wasn't Cinderella, and it's okay. And there are many, you know what I mean? I think so. Maybe that's something that I've learned. Beautiful. And to just love the people around me even tighter and harder. Yeah.
It's beautiful. So interesting to hear your insight into your characters and your own experience. Thank you for sharing so open-heartedly about that. I think it's what makes you so magnetic on stage is how wide open and beating your offering is with your beautiful big hearts. So if you have not seen the show, get thee to the booth is where you guys are.
That is where we are.
Immediately to have a beautiful experience. I like to call it lightning in a bottle when you can sit down in a theater, laugh your ass off, and then find yourself sobbing inconsolably. To feel something. All I want to do is go to the theater and feel. And if you can make me laugh too and make me consider my life before my eyes, it's a very special experience. And that's what they're doing 8 times a week at the booth. So go see Kimberly Akimbo. Go see my sister and my new friend Justin at the show. I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Meta.